Hey guys, welcome back. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have already seen Divine Rose 2 has arrived, and as soon as I possibly could, I spent some time with the palette swatching it and did this look. Here she is, Divine Rose 2 Mothership VIII. And quick side-by-side comparison of the art. This is Divine Rose 1 or Mothership VII. And this is Divine Rose 2, Mothership VIII. The amount of products you get from both palettes are the same. The notable difference, other than the graphical design and the overall colors, is on the palette for Divine Rose 1, it says there are 10 eyeshadows. Whereas on Divine Rose 2, it says this is a artistry palette and that there are 10 shades. And what's notable, as you look at the back, this is where all shadows are listed and their respective ingredients. So this is the same format, but there is one particular shadow on here. Those of you who are familiar with palette, have watched other YouTube videos, you've seen this already, but there is an asterisk right next to Rose Seduction. And when you go down to the special note that corresponds to that asterisk, it says, not intended for use around the immediate eye area. So without further ado, let's go ahead and open up and look at what's inside Divine Rose 2. Now, I did get the limited edition packaging, and like the other Mothership palettes, it does come with a card with the names of each eyeshadow, so I won't show you that, it's the same. This limited edition packaging is basically a pink color or a pink chrome finish. And I do love chrome finishes, especially not in the classic silver. Maybe it's because we know chrome with a silver finish and how it's so common, but when it comes in other colors, I think it's so cool. So I got the limited edition, and I believe at this time it is sold out. The palette went with a limited edition finish, went within minutes is what I heard, but I know they do have plans to bring this back. So if you are interested to get your hands on a limited edition packaging for Divine Rose 2, please sign up on the website. Please let Pat McGrath know through Instagram that you really, really want the limited edition and for them to restock it, because they do hear you, they do check those messages. In fact, I do think Pat McGrath herself is on her Instagram account. Maybe not the whole time, I'm not sure. I'm just really guessing here, but I do believe she sees some of those messages. So going into the palette, I already used it, so there's already some kick up here. We have all 10 shades. This is Rose Seduction. This is the shade with that extra note that it's not safe for immediate eye use. I really was not sure what this was all about. And from watching other YouTubers and commenting, you know, they say that for such colors such as this, being such a bright pink, you do risk it staining your eye area where you apply it. I can tell you that I've applied shades, bright pink, bright red shades, and yeah, they have stained my eye area. But typically after a second cleanup the next day, the following day, it's gone. I don't have any issues. So I did apply some of Rose Seduction onto my lid, just right on the fold here a little bit to intensify the pink. So we'll see. And again, I've used colors that have stained my lid before, but it typically goes away in 48 hours or so. What we're going to do is I will swatch all the shades on Divine Rose 2 and compare them to Divine Rose 1 side by side, and then we'll go into the tutorial. If you're interested just in the tutorial, skip ahead. I will provide timestamps below. After the tutorial, I will share my final thoughts on, you know, what I think of the palette and how it compares or how it stands next to Divine Rose 1, and probably to help answer maybe some people's question of, well, I only plan to get one palette. Which one should I get? So I will attempt to help you with that at the end. So skip on ahead if you've already seen all the swatches. I know a lot of people have done the side-by-side comparison already. Starting from the wrist, we have Skin Show Rose Opal. We've seen many Skin Show shades from Pat McGrath palettes. There is one in every single Mothership palette. This definitely has much more of a pink tone to it. Then we have Naked Blush right below, which is a matte shade, and it's very buttery, very creamy, easy to work with. Below that is Extreme Burgundy, and again, a matte shade that has a pretty plum purple-like tone. Below that is Eleganza, and Eleganza is a very creamy, buttery, metallic shade. It definitely has some cool reflex to it, so it's actually very beautiful. I can definitely see that shade being used all over the lid. Divine Dusk looked similar in tone to Eleganza, but actually it is a deeper shade and actually has a very noticeable glitter finish. I used Divine Dusk on the outer corners of my eyes, along with Eleganza, just to give it more dimension. Then we have Rose Seduction, a bright metallic pink. Rose Seduction compared to Eleganza is actually less metallic in finish. Again, very easy shade to work with. I did not apply this all over the eye. It was just applied very sparingly, and I love how bright it is. Then we have Bronze Rosé 005, which is a very glittery finish. I think this is the perfect name. It's not quite just a rosé, but it has a bronzy tone to it. I really, really like the shade. I think it's really beautiful. Then we have VR Sextra Terrestrial. This is the Trial Chrome, and in the tutorial, you will see me kind of moving to try to show you the way it reflects or the shifts happening. It goes from pink to gold, then to a deep green, depending on which direction, and sometimes it appears in all three of those shades, again, depending on the direction you're moving in. Extremely eye-catching shade. Then we have another gold shade. This is Gold Lust 001. This in tone reminds me of Gold Fortune in Golden Opulence palette. I feel like we have another gold we can do a renew or refresh gold shade comparison. I feel like it's warm and similar to Gold Fortune, but perhaps more glittery in finish. Then for the last shade, we have Astral Pink Moon. And like all the other astral shades, it is meant to be used as a lip topper, but you can also apply it to the inner corners of your eye to give that kind of extra glittery finish. Astral Pink Moon, as the name implies, definitely has a very obvious pink tone to it. For Divine Rose 1 swatches, starting from the wrist, we have Skin Show Nude. Skin Show Nude next to Skin Show Rose Opal is much warmer. It's gold and even champagne-like. And then we have Valoria right below, a matte shade that's like a mauve with a purple undertone. Then we have Extreme Mahogany, which next to Extreme Burgundy from Divine Rose 2 is much more earth tone-like. Then we have Sable Bronze, much more earth tone. And then followed by Lovelace, which is actually in finish closer to Eleganza from Divine Rose 2. It does have a glittery finish, but I feel like the buttery metallic texture reminds me more of Eleganza from Divine Rose 2. And then we have Rose Dusk next to Rose Seduction. Both are, I would say the texture is nearly the same, and I think that's why they're denoted by rose. And the colors you can see here, Rose Seduction is a very bright shade, bright pink, whereas Rose Dusk is more of a subdued pinky purpley shade. Then we have Iridescent Pink 003, and again this is from Divine Rose 1, swatched against Bronze Rose 005. The two are actually not similar in texture or in tone, really anything, other than both are special shades from their respective palettes. I adore Iridescent Pink 003 because you can see that it has a very white base, but the pink shift that's throughout the entire shade is just very captivating. While I enjoy Bronze Rose 005, the one that I can't take my eye off of is Iridescent Pink 003. Next we have VR Rose Venus next to VR Sextraterrestrial. Love, love, love VR Rose Venus. I have not put this shade all over my lid. I've got to one of these days. You can see here, VR Sextraterrestrial is a trichrome and VR Rose Venus is a dual chrome. So while the two are very interesting, beautiful, gorgeous shades with different shifts in color, VR Sextraterrestrial is kind of in its own category, being able to shift into 3 different shades. Then we have the two golds next to each other. Refined Gold 002 from Divine Rose 1 is swatched next to Gold Lust 002. Both have a glittery finish, but Gold Lust 001 is much warmer, as you can see here, and Refined Gold 002 is very much subdued and kind of still has that, reminds me of champagne, you know, that soft kind of champagne that's iridescent and sheer almost. And then finally we have the Astral shades next to each other, Astral Solstice from Divine Rose 1 and then Astral Pink Moon. The difference here is, again, Astral Pink Moon has that pink undertone, and then Astral Solstice is much more champagne-like once again. When looking at the story, the shade story of both palettes side by side like this, it's obvious that Divine Rose 1 is a much more subdued or soft glam type of palette. You can create some amazing looks, but as you combine different colors or try different combinations, the looks are always going to lean towards soft glam. Whereas with Divine Rose 2, you get more pop. Naked Blush, the matte shade that's pretty bright, I can see people applying that all over the lid and putting, you know, even Astral Pink Moon as a lid topper and kind of be done with your look. Then you got a really bright, pretty pink look that's also glittery. And if you look at Rose Seduction, another good example, that's going to make your look pop. And when you look at any of the shades on Divine Rose 1, there's just nothing that comes close to it in terms of brightness. And of course, with VR Sextraterrestrial, the moment you apply that shade, the moment you use it, it's not going to be a shade that kind of sits and blends nicely in the back seat. It's going to blend into your other colors, but it's going to be a standout. So that's how I see the two palettes. I'll get more into it in my final thoughts. Let's head on over to the tutorial. We're going to take Sextraterrestrial and apply that all over the lid. And then I'm going to take a jumbo blending brush to buff out the color. we're taking Eleganza and we're going to add that to the outer corners. And then we're going in with Extreme Burgundy, and we're also adding that to the outer corners. And then we're taking Divine Dusk and applying that just right here onto the fold and blend the color upwards a little bit. I'm going to put on foundation, concealer, bronzer, and we'll come back for the rest. So after taking a closer look, I think we're going to make the look more dramatic. So off camera, I actually took the Jumbo Blender and brought out Extraterrestrial out more. It looks really messy right now. We'll go in and clean it up. So I want more pigment right here before we go in for the cleanup, because right now it just looks really murky, really muddy, and that's not what the finished effect is supposed to be like. So we're gonna go back into the palette. I'm gonna take a brush that kind of has a flatter shape to it than the Jumbo Blender, and we're gonna add more pigment to the two sides. I'm gonna take an opportunity to draw a shape as well. The way the light hits it when I turn my head is incredible. It has this like green reflex that reminds me of the leaf or the stem of a rose. And when you turn, it's just like solid metallic reflection. It's really, really cool. It doesn't come across really on camera, which makes it kind of hard to describe. But let's go in for the cleanup now. Taking this mini Q-tip, I'm gonna go in and really clean up because I want there to be an obvious line or a shape. Now that we're finished with the cleanup and I'm just looking at this again, more and more so, and because Divine Rose is based on roses, the anatomy of a rose, and all its variety and its color that it comes in. So if this part is like a rose stem or the leaf of a rose, I definitely feel like we should make the center part of the lid much more pink. So we're gonna go back in and I'm going to use Naked Blush and apply that pretty generously on a cleaned off mini booster to amp up the pink in the center. Because right now when I look at it, even as it come across on camera or just, you know, in front of a mirror, it has a soft iridescent pink and gold to it. That's because of the Extraterrestrial shade being a trial chrome, and also because of Divine Dusk and Eleganza. So I just want it to be more pink. We're gonna start with that first. We might add back some sort of shimmer or lid topper from the palette afterwards. And with my pinky, I'm going to even apply a little bit of Rose Seduction just to amp up the pink a little bit more. And then I'm adding Eleganza again above the area where we just applied Naked Blush. For the brow bone and inner corners, we're going to go in with Bronzed Rosé 005. This is more of a lid topper kind of shade. We're going to go ahead and add some eyeliner on the upper lash line. We're going to take Naked Blush and put that on the lower lash line. And then we're going to add Divine Dusk to the lower lash line, but close to the outer corner. And we're actually going to even add a little bit of Extreme Burgundy as a tight line just for the outer corners, the bottom. We're going to add some liquid liner. For blush, we're going to go into Naked Blush. For highlight, we're also going to use the shades in this palette. We're going to mix in Skin Show Rose Opal with Astral Pink Moon. So I'm just going to dip my brush into there with some pressure and then just do a kind of one swipe. I'm going to put on some false eyelashes and we'll come back for the finished look. This is the finished look. Well, before we headed to the tutorial, I already said that, I think of Divine Rose 1, especially with the swatches side by side, it's really apparent that it's soft glam. The looks that you can create, different combinations, tend to be on the softer side. Now, you can of course amp it up, but the shades you can use to do that are kind of limited. Whereas with Divine Rose 2, you pick a couple of shades, you're most likely going to get a look that pops a bit more. And in terms of, well, which one produces more beautiful looks? There's just no straight answer to that. They're both gorgeous and beautiful. But the tone of it is where the difference is. And it makes sense that it's the sequel or Divine Rose 2 because it's not in any way better than 1. The quality of the shadows are there. They're the signature quality that we've come to expect from Pat McGrath. So it's not a thought of in terms of what's better. I think you can think of them as two different distinct categories that go well together. So that gives me an idea to combine the two palettes to create some looks and share with you guys in the future. I would say if you're thinking of one for now, or one and just see how you like it, think about how often you're going to use the palettes. Soft Glam is the easy one because you can create day looks and transition into the evening pretty seamlessly. Whereas Divine Rose 2 is always going to give you that little extra something, even if you don't go in with a full intention of creating the most extravagant or standout eyeshadow look. And if you're the type that wants the more interesting, the more pop, because it just jumps out at you that way, Divine Rose 2 is going to be that palette. And the way that I think of it is very similar to the two quads, Nocturnal Nirvana and Ritualistic Rose. Nocturnal Nirvana had the aquamarine, the blue, the deep purple, and Ritualistic Rose had, you know, the rosy color, the really just soft, very pretty, you know, just a color story that really is agreeable for most people. But the moment you pick up Nocturnal Nirvana and you decide to use one shade, two shade, whatever the case may be, you're always going to have a look that's like, oh, I didn't expect that. Like, that was really, this is really cool. This is really different. It doesn't make one quad better than the other. So it strictly is preference. If you want a little something, something, it's Divine Rose 2. But if you want a palette that you're going to go for more often, I could see Divine Rose 1 fitting into that category very easily. So at the end of the day, it's the palette you can't take your eye off of. That's the one that I think you should get. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. More tutorials using Divine Rose to come, and then finally we will do combo looks. Thanks guys. Bye.